the question, exchange it with somebody. Dang, Brianna, hardcore, you're getting the red color pencil out. They tell us not to use red when we're grading because it's a harsh color and it might offend some delicate sensibilities. They actually teach you that in teacher school. Y'all didn't have the pleasure of having Mr. Patterson for math in 6th grade, but he's like, I don't use a red pen, I use a red marker. All right, everybody exchange. All right, let's talk about number 1. Question is, and by the way, all these questions I got from an old EOG, like from 2 years ago, 8th grade science EOG, so don't be surprised to see something very similar to this on your EOG. They like to recycle question topics. Number 1, what do traditional fossils help support? Does anybody have an answer? Oh, why? Pause. They're all supposed to match. There we go. Does that make more sense? Maybe have the answer, or at least a guess. I heard A and B, and that's okay. I expected y'all to be a little confused. What is geology the study of? Earth or rocks. So fossils were either living or traces of living things. They weren't rocks. They're not dirt. So the answer should have been A, biological, living evolution.
You should have fixed it before it's on.
Oh, you'll be okay.
I get it wrong.
Remember I said there could be more than one type of evolution. When we talk about fossils or changes in living things, we're talking about biological evolution. Bio meaning life. All right, number 2. Scientists think that dolphins and whales may have evolved from a common ancestor, and what evidence supports this hypothesis? C, B. It is C. We talked about this when we talked about homologous and analogous features. Dolphins and whales have similar anatomies. So we think that if we're closer in our anatomy, then we probably have a common ancestor. Number 3, what process is most responsible for the extinction of most species and plants of animals that have lived on the earth? Which one do you think is responsible for most of our extinctions? B? Anybody else? C? It is B. Changes in environment like ice ages or the result of an asteroid hitting the earth. A lot of pollution. Those are all environmental changes. Number 4. Which would indicate that a series of fossils represent the evolution of the horse? D.
I don't think that it's not an answer choice.
D's none of the above. Alright, C. Anybody else have an answer besides C? It is C. That's that little itty bitty picture I gave you in your notes. The horse from 50 million years ago looks kind of like the horse from today, just a lot smaller. Had a few features that were different. For the most part, it looked very similar. Number 5, which would best allow species to survive environmental changes?
I put A.
I put A.
I put C.
Okay. Nobody put B, right? Yeah, that's kind of obvious, you know. There's only a few
You're gonna,
you have a better time to get extinct than surviving. So think about Darwin's finches.
The beaks.
Galapagos Islands, the beaks, yep.
Birds.
So if all the birds have the same beak and all of a sudden the food changed, they may not survive. So the answer should be C. You need genetic variation. The more variation you have in the species, the better chance they are able to survive if there's a big change. All right, return this to the person you got it from, and you need to put it in your notebook. These are good study questions for your upcoming test. I'm just saying. All right, we're going to watch a study games video on adaptations. We're going to be wrapping up adaptations of evolution tomorrow. Because on Wednesday, you will have your quiz. And then after your quiz, we're going to be starting on biological classification, which is basically the way scientists have organized life and why we have Latin names like Homo sapiens or Canis lupus, or why we have all those weird names for these species. I will be calling on people to answer questions about the video, so you need to pay attention. Brooklyn, that means stop talking.
Monarch butterflies. An adaptation is a change a living thing goes through, so it fits better with its environment. But I thought adaptations were physical. Well, some adaptations are physical, but others are behavioral. Physical adaptations happen when organisms gradually develop physical characteristics that help them survive. The bright orange color of these butterflies is a physical adaptation. The bright color warns predators that the butterfly is poisonous to eat. Colors can make snapping a pick pretty difficult too. When colors help an animal blend into its surroundings, they're called camouflage. Camouflage is a physical adaptation that allows an animal to hide from its enemies or from its prey. Tiger stripes are camouflage. So is the color of a deer. What about chameleons? They can actually change colors. Yeah, that's a great example. So is color the only physical adaptation? No way. Lots of physical traits are adaptations, like lungs and limbs in amphibians. How else would they survive on land? Well, millions of years ago, amphibians were underwater animals. The lungs and limbs they have today are adaptations that happened over a very long time. As their environment changed, they were forced to adapt. When organisms pass on important traits that help them survive to the next generation, it's called natural
All right, let's see what you know. All right, a species has physically adapted by using camouflage. What is true? The species has migrated to avoid predators. The species has hibernated to avoid predators. The species played dead to avoid predators. Or the species blended in with its surroundings to avoid predators. Which one is it, Tyvon? It is D. It's blended. This is why tigers have stripes. This is why Toothless is kind of colored like sand. Let's see. All right, what is another term for inherited behaviors? David, which one of those words means inherited? A, nope, that is an inherited behavior, but it's another term for one. Brianna. Nope, not C. You got it, Brian? Which one is it?
B.
It is B. An instinct is an inherited behavior. If you have an instinct for something like, let me think what the one that you might know. Like, I would say flying south for the winter. If you see those big old V's of geese flying south for the winter, it's an instinct. It's something they're inherited, it's something they're born with. It's not something that they learn. They just know to do it. Why do some organisms like butterflies have bright colors? Read it over and tell me the answer. Not here. A lot, no. Logan. A, yes. Believe it or not, butterflies are poisonous. Yeah, that's, why we don't eat them. That and they're pretty. All right, how did amphibians adapt to their changing environment? This goes to Arlith. C, they developed lungs and limbs, yes. Once upon a time, amphibians lived in the water like fish. They now are able to move onto land. So they had developed lungs to help them breathe and limbs to help them move. Anybody ever seen ocelot? It's an amphibian I want. Aren't they cute?
Miss Thomas, have you seen a crocodile snake?
Yes.
They remind me of Toothless from How to Train Your Dragon.
Yes.
They're so cute.
These guys, I almost got one, but they're like $80, and I can't keep a beta fish. Live fish are not my thing. So I have a feeling an amphibian probably wouldn't survive, so I held off. Like, man, they're cute. They look like little Pokemon. All right, where were we? Oh, there we go. All right, a bear sleeps all winter. What is this form of adaptation called? This goes to Brittany.
So easy.
Don't set her up. B, hibernation. All right, what happens to unnecessary traits during the process of natural selection? This goes to Brian. Not Jackie's.
See?
Put your hand down. Brian. Not C, they're not passed on to future generations. Aaliyah. Which one?
B.
Not B, they don't disappear suddenly. Ruben. Not A. It is D.
Oh.
Remember, Evolution is a very slow process. Things do not appear, things do not disappear quickly. It takes time. So if you have a trait that's unnecessary, like your wisdom teeth coming in, over time, it will change. It will not be passed down to future generations. We're going to talk about that. Anybody ever heard of vestigial organs before? Oh, good talk. We'll talk about that in a minute. What is the goal of both physical and behavioral adaptations? This goes to, not here, Bichan. Nope. You said what? A? It is A. Why we have adaptations is to be able to survive in our environment. All right. So get out your notebooks. Let's talk about vestigial organs real quick. Y'all are probably going to be like, oh yeah, whatever I tell you about them. All right, somewhere around your embryology picture,
But you want this to go around it?
somewhere, I've got a whole other page that's blank, so.
I do on this one.
So if you're like me and you had to put your embryology picture on another page, then you probably have a half of a blank page at least. Make sure I spell it right. All right. Once another sign of adaptation. This probably should have. If we had time to do it the other day, we would have done it. But we'll do it today. This is another way that scientists have determined that there is evolution, and this is not just humans, but I'm going to give human examples. But a lot of animals have vestigial organs. A vestigial organ is basically an organ that is, or body part, that is not needed anymore. So we're starting to see it go away. We still see presence of it, there's still evidence of it, but it's not something we use. So if you, let me make sure I spell it right. Vestigial traits. V-E-S-T-I-G-I-A-L. We're going to say they are evidence of evolutionary heritage. They are not needed today. think of there's an organ in our body that sometimes gets inflamed and we have to have it taken out. It's in our stomach. Does anybody know what it's called?
Sitting on your left.
Sometimes, yeah.
So what?
It should be on your left, yeah. You've ever had a stomach pain?
Yeah,
The organ becomes infected, you gotta get it taken out?
yeah, before you die.
Yeah, before it bursts.
Oh no.
Remember what it's
I
called?
Oh, yeah, I remember it.
What?
No,
Let it last.
it's someone that look when you a baby. Wait, you just.
Oh no, he confused me now.
Hold up. What you say? I only know that it's appendix or something.
Yes.
Oh, no.
The appendix. The appendix is a part of your digestive system attached to your intestines that is no longer in use. A long time ago, our diet was a lot different. It was a lot more plant-based. So we had to have what was called a cecum to help digest our food. We see that in horses and horses and rabbits. They have like a pouch that helps digest all this roughage they eat. Well, we don't need that anymore. Our diet has changed enough that that has become unnecessary for us. So it's shrank over the years. All that's left is this little tiny piece called the appendix. Sometimes the appendix gets infected and we have to have it removed because we get appendicitis. We have to have an appendectomy. It's fairly common. And eventually, as evolution continues the way it is, we won't even have an appendix anymore. Another one. We already talked about this one. Wisdom teeth. We don't need them anymore, so evolution is taking care of it for us. However, some of us still have it. Nope. Nope, mine got removed. Some of them keep there, some of them doesn't bother them. All right. This one is called your coccyx, which is your tailbone. And they call it a tailbone because back in evolutionary history, before we became humans, we had tails. We come and we relate to organisms that had tails. But obviously we don't have tails anymore.
I wanted to.
Imagine buying pants.
You have to cut a little hole in it.
And that's like when you look at your embryology. So look at, I'm going to point an arrow up to right here. You're in that second level of embryology stage. You can actually see we have a little tail. But because we don't use our tails, we're upright walking animals that do not need tails. Over the years we have evolved. We no longer need it. Noah, pick your head up. $5,000 drawing. All right, here's one that I know a few of you probably can relate to. Tonsils. Who's had their tonsils removed? They used to be our first line of defense in our immunity. So our immune system that keeps us from getting sick, it used to be the primary glands to secrete the things needed to keep us from getting sick. However, we've adapted to not really need them anymore. So usually they become more of an issue than they are helpful. So a lot of times if you get a lot of tonsillitis, you'll end up having them removed. Both of my kids have had theirs removed. So tonsils are something that we still have. There's not really many people that are born without them, but they're not necessary anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised that, a few million years down the road, we no longer have tonsils when we were born, which would be, you know, nice. All right. So that's vestigial traits. So if you see vestigial, which you probably will on a test or at least your benchmark, then you'll know what we're talking about. Now you can either draw a line as separation, or start a new page, either way, because it's not gonna fit, mine's not gonna fit the bottom of this page. Adaptations. Types of adaptations. There are more than one type. There's more than just changing our beak shape or getting rid of a tail. It's more than physical. And we learned about some of them on the study jams. How about that brain pop? Nope, nope, nope. Let me make this a little bit bigger. So I made a list of the types of adaptations that you should know. When you see the word structural adaptations, that means physical, stuff you can see, like the bird beaks. That one's easy to see. We can compare fossils and see the structural changes over millions of years, and we're like, oh yeah, they evolved, that's for real. Camouflage is a physical adaptation. You can see the color of the animal as it blends in with the environment, so you know that it's adapted to its surroundings. If you have a chameleon, you can see it in action. Size of your ears. One of the things, let me see, who has ever seen a real jackrabbit in real life?
What?
Jackrabbit. They live in hot areas like deserts. I've seen one.
Is that the thing off of Alice in Wonderland?
Nah, I don't think he's a jackrabbit. Let's see. This is a jackrabbit.
Oh my gosh.
What do you notice about that rabbit?
There were some huge ears.
Those are some huge ears, yeah?
And also, when he's standing like that, it reminds me of the dog. With like really weird ears.
So, a jackrabbit has really huge ears. It is adapted to its environment so it can hear prey, which really is wrestling with plants. But more importantly, it can hear predators. Also, it helps keep him cool. A lot of that exposed skin, you're able to cool off a lot easier than if you had floppy ears. If you have floppy ears, it tends to hold the heat in. So the jackrabbit has adapted to being in a hot environment by having exposed skin in its ears. It also helps keep it safe from predators so it can hear them coming from long distances. Flippers. We talked about how humans and whales are related because they have structures that are similar. Their flippers have been adapted to help them move in the water. Length of neck or legs. Who do you think's adapted to have a nice neck for eating out of the tops of trees? Giraffe. That is the perfect example of adaptation. Giraffes did not always have long necks, but as it was harder for them to eat plants that were near the ground because the plants had started growing really, really tall. And as the plants started growing really tall, the giraffes with the longer necks were able to survive, and the giraffes with shorter necks did not. So eventually, all the giraffes have longer necks. Defense. If you think about a plant that if you touch it, you get itchy, what is that called? What type of plant?
Poison
ivy.
oak, and poison sumac.
Yep. Those all have developed through adaptation to having a type of poison that causes a reaction in animals trying to eat it. Same thing with thorns. Plant develops thorns in order to protect against the creatures who want to eat it. Who do you think's got a good defense with smell? Who uses smell as a defense? Skunk. And a lot of times people argue that this is more of a behavior, but skunks have developed special glands in order to get that nice stink that you smell. That is a physical adaptation. Those glands are physical adaptation. The way they use it is behavioral, but the glands themselves are physical. And then finally, gills. We talked about how animals that live more in water have developed gills. And we have evidence in our embryos of having gills, but they go away as we develop. You get questions then?
What about octopus?
What about octopus and the ink?
Yeah.
That's an adaptation. All those defenses are adaptations, physical adaptations. Physiological are adaptations that you can't see. It's changes within the body or within the plant or within the animal. So those poisons, the glands on poisonous animals are physical. Releasing those poisons is physiological. Developing the poisons in the body is physiological. We can't see poison ivy's poison, but it's there. Body changes to water availability. There are creatures like desert mice that can live for months and months without any water. Their body has adjusted. Their kidneys have adjusted. All their organs have adjusted to not having water available. And that is an adaptation. They weren't first created like that. As the deserts were bigger, they appeared more. The animals living in the deserts had to adapt to not having that water. And phototropism. Does anyone know what phototropism is?
No.
The 6th grade term. Has to do with plants. No, but it both uses the word photo, which means what? Not picture. So photosynthesis uses what type of energy to make food for plants? Sun. So photo means light. Phototropism is a plant's movement in response to light. So the reason why these plants are leaning this way is because I have it facing the light like that. So they have bent over and moved in response to the light.
I saw a picture where they kept turning the plant after so long until it's like a super long zigzag.
Yep. If you grow plants sideways, like if you plant seeds in like a tray and then turn it sideways, the plants will grow out and then up. That is an adaptation caused by chemical reactions in the plant in response to photosynthesis, so it's physiological. It's something we can't see on the inside. We see the results, but the actual process is inside the plants themselves. Last one is behavioral. So this is how an organism acts. Migration is probably the most easiest one to remember. Creatures have had to adapt to the change in availability of food during different seasons, so they go where the food is. They've adapted to be able to travel to where the food is.
Is bird song like the birds whistling?
Bird songs are like the different songs of the birds.
I like to whistle
They all have different sounding, either mating calls or warnings. Except for the mockingbird, which copies other birds. Rude.
I like the
Which, by the way, that's the mockingbird call.
Wait, do they have their own call?
They do, but they like to mimic other birds.
I like to whistle back at the birds. Is that weird?
I'm not gonna answer that.
They do it back, but I'm pretty sure it's because they're not interpreting. I've seen one fly to the thing in front of me.
Unless you have a question. Alright, instincts. Anybody ever, seen a fainting goat before? You're hilarious. So you go up on these goats and you're like, blah, and the goats like stiff leg fall over on their back, look dead like a corpse. And it's hilarious to watch. That's an instinct. You scare a goat, its instinct, not, any goat, but these fainting goats. If you scare a fainting goat, its instinct is to play dead. Same with a possum. Most animals, if they see somebody like us, a potential predator or something that will harm them, coming towards them, their instinct is to run. Cats, anything that moves, their instinct is to try to chase it and capture it. And the last one is hibernation. So, creatures like Toothless have adapted to whenever they know the temperature is changing, it's becoming a colder season. Food is not going to be as available as it usually is. So they go into this rest mode to conserve their energy and wait until the season where things start to grow and there's more food available. Dang, I thought we'd have more time.
Miss Thomas, I have a question.
Uh-huh.
So I like it. I like the giant and like super dark. It wasn't like right here either. It was like here.
A lot of times it means they're too cold.
What's the temperature?
It should be, you should have a basking spot that is around 100. And then the cool side of the tank needs to be no lower than like 80.
But then when I took it out and I held it, it was like, it was colder in my house than it was, and it like went down.
Plus, is your home. Your
No.
You make sure that at night it doesn't drop any lower than 65, and that during the day it gets a basking temperature of around 100.
Am I supposed to turn the light off at night?
Yeah.
I am? Like
It needs nighttime too. Yeah, turn off both of them. You should just,
But what if it gets cold in my house?
that's what you have to have a heating element on the side of the tank, like I do. Like a heating pad, don't put it under the tank.
What about one of the red or blue lights? Because they said that if you